Let's continue to go to the second part in our chapter 2. So in the next 3 videos, the first one I will talk about more data type. We introduced integer data type and the floating point data type. The next one we will talk about char data type and the string data type and the bool data type. Then in the other 2 videos, we will talk about auto keyword and some other related information about variable scope and constant variable. So the first one, let's see another data type. We call that the char. So that's char. So the character data type actually is we will hold this variable only for one character. So that used to hold character. So usually they only even we say used to hold character, but they only can hold one. Or a very small integer value. I will explain why they mean. So one thing is because when you declare a character data type, they only use 1 byte for the memory. So the numeric value of the character from the character set is stored in the memory. What does that mean? We just see here, this one is our C++ code. We declare a variable called letter. The data type is char. So after we done this one, okay, only this line. So after this line, actually in the memory, what happened is they will find 1 byte location. Then using the letter variable to refer to this location address. Then I don't have value yet. Actually not value yet. So if for this statement, they only allocate 1 byte, then the letter variable refer to this location. But here, actually it's no value. I say no value, actually they occupy this 1 byte, but the value they occupy is before, is they assigned before. So after you declare this letter variable, we assign 1 byte in the memory. So then afterward, we can assign the value to this letter. So in order to give them a character, we're using the single quote. So the single quote is only contain 1 letter. So the letter actually can be alphabetic order, or can be alphabetic letter, or they can be numeric letter, or they can be special letter, for example, like a pound sign or a dollar sign. But here we'll give you the example is the uppercase C. So after the uppercase C, so suppose we think about they will save the C here, right? But you see here, they save 67. So 167. So later I will explain to you. But the first thing is, whenever you want to assign a character literal to a character variable, they has to be enclosed in single quote mark, like this. But they are not, after they assign, right, they are not put the C here, because computer doesn't know C. Computer only know 1 and 0. So then we say 1 byte, that means 8 bits, right? So then actually, if you heard about ASCII table, did you hear about ASCII table before? Even you don't know what is ASCII table, but sometimes you heard ASCII table, right? So right, ASCII table actually is the table to have the match character. So you see here you have uppercase A to Z. Then you have special symbol, the at, and smaller case A to Z. So this one actually is not complete ASCII table. If you want to see the complete ASCII table, you can search online to find that. But here I just give you the example. You see here. Here is uppercase C, right? So uppercase C actually they have match value. That's ASCII table for. So for decimal, they are 67. So that's why here we show you 67. Because for you, you are human, you only understand decimal. But of course, in computer, they don't save 67. Actually, they save the 67 is in decimal value, right? they save equivalent to decimal 67, but in binary number. So here, the binary number, you need to convert the 67 into 8-bit. So that's why you will see that. But in this class, we are not detailed to tell you how to convert the binary number. But we just let you know here, when you think about it's 1 byte memory location, you need to think about they have 8-bit. So even here, I show you 67, but it's just for human meaning. But equivalent, they have saved in the binary. So in the ASCII, you have the character, you have the decimal equivalent value. So the next one, they say the hex decimal. Then they have optical decimal. So that's for 16 and 8 for each digit. Yeah, but this class, we don't focus on what is hexadecimal or octadecimal. So then I just show you the ASCII value. So that's how we will have our character variable. They only occupy 1 byte. So then you can download the demo file on the example 4. You see here, you can have your the letter we define. Then we can assign. So when you assign A to the letter, right? So you can see out. So you see out another way, you have the \n. Okay. Before I show you the \n, if they are in the double quote, they can put in the string. But sometimes if they are alone here, also you see single quote \n, this one actually equivalent, they just add a new line. So on the other hand, this one equivalent to ENDL, end of line. Then you can reassign the letter for B, so we print out again. So that's why your output is here. Also, you can check to change the value to see how your output is. So that's our character variable. Next, the character variable, let's talk about our string. So here we talk about string is usually you see how you use that. This one actually is we call C++ string. So if you are talking about the C++ string, then we need to include the library. So C++ string, you need to include string library. If you do so, then you can define an object data type called string. So then we can define the string variable like this. I can have a string variable called first name, then called last name. So afterward, the first name variable is a string, right? So since this data type is string, so you can assign a string, literal string to this variable. So you see string, we use the double quote. For character, we use the single quote. So we assign first name is George. So the last name is Washington. So then you, of course, you can display the variable name in cout. Okay, so then you cout first name, last name. But you see here, if you don't have space in between, they will just concatenate with each other. Also, that's why here we have a space here. So again, we can see more example in example 5. Okay, so we can have a string. So why we want to have a string? We say movie title. So then we need to include a string library first. But sometimes you see after you have a string, right, you have double quote to assign the value. Okay, but now you see you can have the string, actually they can have space in between. Also that's important because they are an entity, they have one string. So this one actually is one of my favorite movie, The Lion King for 2019. Yeah, I was very happy to see this one actually is on Disney Plus channel. But sometimes I love this movie, but also I feel sad to watch that first beginning because Simba's dad will be die. Okay, anyway, so that's the string. So we just want to show you. So now you can run example 5. How about you replace your favorite movie title, then you can display. So that's string type. The last data type we want to talk about is the bool data type. So the bool actually came from boolean. but in C++ we use the bool. So what is the bool data type? So the bool data type, the purpose is try to represent value that's either true or false. So then your bool is a variable, it's a data type. So then you can do the bool, then you have variable name. So the bool data type, the same thing. We say every data type, they have their memory size, right? So the bool data type, you only have 1 byte. Okay. So then we can define, you see, bool all down or bool finish. So after you declare the variable, you can just right away assign the value. So actually true and the false, these two also are the keyword in C++. So you can do the bool all down equal to true. So when you do the equal to true, right? So you see we have the all down. After you declare, you have all down variable. So bool will assign you 1 byte. But here you see they won't display true here. True just the keyword. So in C++ compiler see the true, they will assign 1 to this value. Okay, so then you see true is 1. The same thing, you can have another bool equal finish, but you can assign to false. So if you assign to false, that's 0. So then we see one example about the bool. Okay, so that's example 7. So you have a bool value, we assign this one equal to true. Then we have a bool value, then we assign to false later. But one thing you can see in line 12, you do the bool equal to true, right? But when you try to see out, like we say, they save the 1 in that memory location when they are true. So when you really display, they only display 1 for the true, 0 for the false. So that's the bool data type. So now we kind of introduce you all the basic fundamental data type. So all the data type, like we say, they all have their memory size. So then we're back to see here. Okay, so remember integer, if we just use the int is 4 bytes. Then floating point, if we do the double is 8 bytes. Char is 1 byte. String actually is an object, so we will talk about that later for the memory location. So the bool is the same thing as 1 byte. So sometimes since we talk about the byte, right? So then sometimes if you forgot or you didn't remember what is their variable size, okay, so then we want to show you before the end of this video. So actually we have an operator called sizeof in C++. You can pass in a variable or a data type. So then they will give you how many bytes it is. So actually sizeof operator give you the size of any data type. So on the other hand, you can just write int, then sizeof, they will give you the size of the int data type. Or you can define a variable. Okay, so passing the variable name, the sizeof will give you the size for that variable. So then you can see here, this one is in example 8. So then here they can show you the size for each data type. So this one you can do, one thing is before we use the sizeof, we define a long double is variable called apple. So then if we want to know the size of the apple, so you just see here, you can see out. An apple can be eaten. Okay, so actually it's not really eaten, but just the apple we define in long double. So when you use the sizeof, you can see here, they have the different colors. So sizeof actually the same thing is the keyword in C++. So you can give them the variable name. So then we can see long double actually is 18 bytes. So you can pass in the variable name to sizeof, or just give them the data type name. So here the size of integer for the int is 4 bytes. So the size of a long integer, you see we do the size of long. Okay, so long is 8 bytes. So that's sizeof. Just in case you don't remember the size for the default data type.